The tireless search for survivors enters day 5 in New York City. Families and rescue workers refuse to give up hope that more people will be rescued from the fallen Twin Towers. However, for the past 3 days, the rubble has yielded only bodies.
Another city, another recovery effort, surveying the damage at the Pentagon. 187 people lost their lives here.
While New York City buries 3 of its top firefighters, more than 300 others are still missing.
Hello and welcome. I'm Jim Clancy.
And I'm Relitza Vasileva at the CNN Center. You're watching CNN's continuing coverage of America's new war.
Well, let's begin in New York City, where smoke continues to billow out from the ruins of what was once one of the world's most recognizable landmarks. No one has been pulled alive from the site of the collapse of the World Trade Center since Wednesday. But continued rescue operations are giving hopes to thousands of families and friends waiting to hear from their missing loved ones. Officials say they will reevaluate each day and decide when the rescue becomes a recovery effort. Investigators also report finding what they say is a passport that apparently belonged to one of the hijackers. It was found several blocks from the crash site itself. 187 people are now presumed dead from the Pentagon crash. The investigation into Tuesday's attacks said to be the largest in U.S. history. Some 4,000 Federal Bureau of Investigation agents and more than 3,000 support personnel taking part in the ongoing investigations.
CNN has learned that Pakistan is sending a delegation to Afghanistan to demand that the ruling Taliban hand over Osama bin Laden. The United States says it considers bin Laden to be the prime suspect behind Tuesday's terror attacks. We're now joined by Tom Mintier in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. Tom.
Relitza, also an update. Osama bin Laden reportedly denying he had any involvement in the acts in the United States. The Afghan Islamic press, on a piece of letterhead received in Peshawar out of Afghanistan, a statement from a close aide of Osama bin Laden, Abdul Samad, quoting bin Laden that he had nothing to do with what happened in the United States. As you said at the beginning, the Pakistan government is asking the Taliban to hand over Osama bin Laden in the next 3 days or face a huge military operation. A representative from the Pakistani government will go into Afghanistan and meet with Mullah Omar, the head of the Taliban organization, probably tomorrow. Now, we also have some details from our sources here in Pakistan about the phone conversation last night between President George W. Bush and the Pakistani president. Part of that phone conversation was possibly part of the deal to bring Pakistan involvement on the side of the United States. The demands by Pakistan for their assistance, that the U.S. help in economic ways for Pakistan, possibly lifting the economic sanctions that currently exist, and help with the $30 billion debt problem that they currently have. So that is part of it. Another part of what we're hearing here in Islamabad is that the United States, part of the agreement that no Pakistan ground troops involved in the operation, their soil not used, only the airspace would be used. Pakistan is also asking the United States to intercede in the dispute with India over Kashmir. They've also asked the U.S. government, as our sources tell us here, that India and Israel not be involved in the operation against Afghanistan if one is launched, not allow the land of Pakistan to be used. According to our sources close to President Musharraf, Osama bin Laden holds the key to war or no war in this region. Now, the meetings occurring here in Islamabad to shore up support behind the government's decision will probably be going on late into the night here on Sunday in Pakistan, in Islamabad, as President Musharraf attempts to build a coalition of support for his decision to assist the United States in its operation against Osama bin Laden. Meetings have been going on all day, started early this morning, meeting with editorial writers, media people, religious leaders, politicians. It's a long list of meetings that's going to go on late into the night here. But the biggest news that we have out of the meetings is that an ultimatum is going to be sent by a Pakistani senior official into Afghanistan to the Taliban that they hand over Osama bin Laden within the next 3 days or face military action. Relitza?
Tom, back on the first piece of breaking news you brought to us, this statement by Osama bin Laden to the Islamic press saying that he had nothing to do with the terrorist attacks in the United States. How much credence can we give this quote?
Well, you have to take it a bit on faith. Now, the names are all right. Abdul Samad is a close aide of Osama bin Laden, and it did come on the Afghan Islamic Press letterhead. This fax that was sent in denying responsibility was sent to Peshawar, and you know, we have to go basically on that. But again, this is an organization that supposedly, according to the Taliban, has had their fax machines taken away, their cell phones taken away, their satellite phones taken away, no internet access, no fax machines. So how this note was faxed out of Afghanistan here to Pakistan remains a mystery. But it was a note on the Afghan Islamic Press letterhead, and it did quote a close aide to Osama bin Laden. But it's extremely difficult to verify the authenticity of this note if it indeed was sent by the people it was purportedly sent from. Ralitza?
Tom, thank you. Jim?
Well, obviously, Release, with all those developments Tom's telling us about, we're looking at a situation where the pressure is being ratcheted up on Osama bin Laden on one hand, on the Taliban rulers of Afghanistan on the other. What's the effect of all that? Let's find out. Nick Robertson is in Kabul. He joins us now by video phone. Nick.
The streets in Kabul and in other cities around the country still seem fairly busy. The market's quite bustling. There are some stalls that are closed down, but generally it appears as business as normal. The car mechanics are out on the streets. The tin makers are still hard at work. The furniture and cabinet makers working as well. It does seem like life is normal. However, it's not. Food prices are going up 10 to 15%. Many Afghans also becoming concerned not only about the possibility of missile strikes from America, but also the fact that the borders with Pakistan and Iran may be closing in the near future. Both countries looking at that option in the near future. For many Afghans, however, they're really too poor to get out of the cities. Their main aim most days is just to put food on their table, and that job is going to likely be made harder in the coming days and weeks. A new ruling from the Taliban leadership has ruled that all foreigners must leave Afghanistan. The last of the aid workers began leaving a little time ago. There was only a handful here, but their concerns are that in Afghanistan there are several millions of people that depend on handouts from international aid groups of various sorts, food, shelter, bread, things like this. Beyond that also, there are several hundreds of thousands of internally displaced Afghans living in makeshift camps. They've been displaced from their homes because of an ongoing 4-year drought. They are, aid groups say, solely dependent on international aid. And without the charity groups' support to help feed them, they're very concerned about what could happen to those people. Also, journalists have been requested to leave. It's unclear yet if that will actually have to happen, but certainly the Taliban Foreign Ministry saying that they cannot guarantee the safety of foreigners remaining here if there is a missile attack from America. And in the past, there have been instances in 1998 when there was a missile attack in Afghanistan following the bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. There were attacks on United Nations compounds, and indeed one Italian worker here at that time was killed. Certainly for now, though, the sense of isolation here is growing.
Nick, thank you very much. Meanwhile, Washington is still considering how to retaliate. As Kelly Wallace reports, President Bush is warning the American public that the road ahead will be long and difficult.
Spending the weekend at the secluded presidential retreat in the Maryland mountains, President Bush huddles with his national security team and prepares the American people for war.
We're at war. There's been an act of war declared upon America by terrorists, and we will respond accordingly.
The president refuses to discuss military options, but for the first time, he specifically named suspected terrorist Osama bin Laden as a, quote, prime suspect behind Tuesday's terrorism spree. Bin Laden is believed to be hiding out in Afghanistan, with the ruling Taliban government providing him safe haven.
This act will not stand. We will find those who did it. We will smoke them out of their holes. We will get them running, and we'll bring him to justice.
When asked if those words mean President Bush is considering using ground troops to attack terrorists, aides say nothing has been ruled out. But winning this so-called war and finding the elusive bin Laden won't be easy, says a former Clinton administration official.
We're not fighting a military, we're not fighting an organized power, but we're fighting a very diffuse and shadowy organization that has links in many different parts of the world.
Knowing Americans are hungry for swift retaliation, the president uses his radio address to say a sweeping response will come in time.
You will be asked for your patience, for the conflict will not be short. You will be asked for resolve, for the conflict will not be easy. You will be asked for your strength, because the course to victory may be long.
And aides say President Bush has gained strength from his meeting Friday with more than 200 family members with loved ones still missing, believing his job is to turn their sorrow into something positive for future generations. While the American people overwhelmingly support a military response, keeping that support up will be another big challenge for the president, especially if a prolonged military attack means some U.S. troops lose their lives. Kelly Wallace, CNN, near Camp David, Maryland.
Officials say it could take 10 days or more to recover all the victims killed in the Pentagon crash. The U.S. Defense Department says the remains of 85 people have been removed from the wreckage so far. The total number of presumed dead at the Pentagon crash site stands at 187. We're learning more about two of the hijackers who rammed the American Airlines jet into the complex. Authorities say they previously had been under government watch as suspected associates of Osama bin Laden. Much attention has been paid to the U.S. victims killed in the attacks, but the death toll extends far beyond America. Germany reports at least 554 missing or dead. Among the other countries reporting scores of casualties are Switzerland, India, Canada, the United Kingdom, and Russia.
The investigation revealing information about two of the 5 hijackers who crashed American Airlines Flight 77 into the Pentagon. Eileen O'Connor has more on that investigation and a possible tie to another recent attack on U.S. interests.
They booked the tickets on American Airlines Flight 77 from Washington to Los Angeles on Travelocity, using a New Jersey address, mailboxes, etc. And names U.S. officials confirm were known to them: Khalid al-Mihdhar and Salim al-Hamzi. Once on board, together with al-Hamzi's brother and an old roommate, a known pilot, they took over the flight, crashing it into the Pentagon. Within minutes, the facade of a symbol of American strength crumbled. As the search and rescue efforts continue, sources say the FBI was informed that Khalid al-Mihdhar and Salim al-Hamzi were associated with Osama bin Laden and the bombing of the USS Cole. One source confirms they had concrete evidence al-Mihdhar had met with a man who was later involved in the attack on the Cole.
One was kind of short and the other two was tall.
Al-Mihdhar was a frequent visitor of al-Hamzi and his brother Nawak in the San Diego apartment complex.
They was always together. If they left, it was together. They come back, they're together.
They hung out a lot at the pool, despite telling their neighbors they were studying at a nearby college.
You'll see 3 of them in the pool swimming, or you'll see the dude always looking out the window, another one outside the door on the phone.
At one point, they left, telling one landlord they were in Arizona, living in different cities at different addresses. As it turns out, rooming with another hijacker aboard that plane, Hani Hanjour. Hani attended this flying school, CRM, Cockpit Resource Management, but left without a certification.
He's kind of a waste of time. He wouldn't show up for flights on time, didn't do his homework.
Not a promising student, but skilled enough